Consider a throne designed just to toss in your way, expecting you'd trip, shatter, and beg. Instead of collapsing, you stood higher. And now those same thrones have collapsed under the weight of their own intentions. This is how the universe operates. It does not miss. It does not forget. It merely waits before striking back with accuracy. See Chosen One. The cosmic equilibrium does not require witnesses. It has rhythm. The same people who attempted to trip you are now caught in their own traps. That is karma, wrapped in quiet, delivered in phases. You don't need vengeance when a universe performs math like a pro. You ascend. They recoil. You grow. They experience glitches. Their attempts at delaying. You become the perfect fuel for your metamorphosis. Critics, haters, they were not opponents. They were accelerators. They handed you fire, expecting it to burn you, only to see you transform into armor. You become the storm. They alerted others about this. You did not rage, but rather calculated. And that calm, unfazed enthusiasm, it haunts them. They have no fear of you showing up. They are concerned because they do not know when you will arrive. You aren't simply succeeding. You are becoming proof. Proof that nothing done in the shadows remains concealed forever. Those who scorned your quiet are now smothered by it. That is the dread of actual power. It does not shout. It does not pursue. It simply arrives and changes the entire environment. So, if this spoke straight to you, please like and subscribe, because the trip is not done. It's merely the beginning, and the following wave will come with your name engraved in lightning. Before we go any further, pause and absorb the moment, because what you're going to hear is more than just information. This is confirmation. You've already made a strong impression that has rewired their fear. You did not just shake a room. You moved the entire system. That type of power does not go. It develops. If you've ever felt that you were meant for more, that your mere presence alters the climate of a room, this message is tailored specifically for you. Hit the like button, subscribe so that we may keep revealing the truth. Drop 99 in the comments if you know they are still praying you won't return. Let's get started. Number 1, stop allowing silence to be misunderstood. Use it to restart the whole battlefield. They anticipated noise, mayhem, and dramatic outbursts. Instead, they received structured quiet. There are no theatrics or messy tantrums. Just a subtle surgical blow from someone who has previously run every potential scenario through their thoughts like clockwork and emerged 10 steps ahead. That's what really broke them. Not your wrath, but your serenity. Not your power, but your accuracy. You did not act impulsively. You moved like a strategist with a blueprint carved in your bones. Each step was purposeful. Each moment carries several layers of importance. One of your phrases seemed like 5 separate truths detonating at the same time. You weren't simply demolishing their falsehoods. You were destroying the lie around which they had based their whole identities. You demonstrated what true control looks like. Calculated, distant, and unavoidable, they stuck to antiquated techniques and superficial manipulation. You experimented with complexity. They couldn't see that their shields were meant for apparent hazards, such as attackers who strike wildly. But you allow them to demonstrate their own vulnerability by behaving just as you predicted they would. They were not outwitted in one move. They were duped into exposing themselves with every frantic countermeasure they attempted. And, ironically, the more they attempted to stop you, the quicker they plummeted. Every barrier, tactic, and backup plan they implemented created another fracture in their foundation. Because they never seen you as someone who studies before hitting. They anticipated resistance, not refinement. And what they got was poetic ruin and exquisite exposure. You did not need to destroy them. You just let their framework to collapse under the weight of its own contradictions once light struck it. This is what makes you dangerous. The chosen one. You are not noisy. You arrive with nerve. And they did not lose because you outclassed them. They lost because you had outgrown the game they were playing. Number 2, don't simply enter the room. Adjust the atmosphere. So they doubt reality. The chosen one. You were never intended to blend in. You were designed to disturb frequencies. When you enter a room, you aren't just turning up. You're moving the air itself. People do not know why. They instantly feel unbalanced. Why do their ideas get clouded? Why does the temperature appear to decrease or climb without warning? That's not a coincidence. That's you. Real energy cannot be ignored. And yours? It's pressure in the human form. You do not have to raise your voice or make announcements. Your presence is an announcement. The energy rebalances. Conversations lose their flow. The eyes shifted. Even those who said they were unaffected began fidgeting, second-guessing, and stuttering. That is because you're not working at their level. You are bending the level itself. You're not a part of the dynamic. You are the dynamic. They do not recall anything you said. They recall how the room transformed when you entered it. And now that memory haunts them since the change you induced was not transient. It rewired how they feel in places you have touched. Every creak of a door, every gaze, and every moment of stillness is now an unanswerable inquiry. What if you came back? You did not go in expecting to be accepted. You went in to uncover what they had been keeping from themselves. This is why they're still unsettled. That is why they pray you do not return. Because reality never returns to its original state after being shifted. Number 3, stop playing little. That smile alone should cause an identity dilemma. They expected you to fold. They expected you to flinch. Instead, you grinned. Not out of charity, but because of calculation. That grin, it wasn't a decoration. It was demolished. A silent announcement that the version of you they derided is no longer real. And as it curled over your face, everything changed. The room felt cooler. The hierarchy crumbled. Suddenly, they were not gazing at the same person. They were looking at the consequences of underestimating the wrong person. You see, chosen one, your quiet was never a capitulation. It was a surveillance operation. And that smile, that was the signal. This is the first and final warning. It's the type of situation that not only shakes people up, but also reforms them. Because that expression contains every lesson they forced you to absorb in silence. Every scar transformed into a plan. Every delay translated into supremacy. That is why your grin has a greater impact than any yell. It makes them doubt everything, including their position, power, and their own perception of reality. It's unnerving because it reflects the reality. They can't dispute that you're no longer someone they can define or imprison. You are the mirror that they have spent years avoiding. And now you've moved into their line of sight, unconcerned and transformed. So stop being tiny only to make people feel comfy in their fantasy. If your grin alone can upset their spirits, think what your commanding presence can achieve. They're not simply praying. You do not return. They are praying for their lives. The remembrance of your last appearance. Number 4, stop moving emotionally. When like a grandmaster, not a gladiator. They wanted you to flinch. They poked. They lied. They attempted to publicly embarrass you in the hopes of eliciting a reaction. But you didn't yell. You recalculated. And in the quiet, they knew they weren't dealing with a cage fighter. They were at battle with a big master and were playing checkers with emotion. You played chess with time, and every gesture you made wasn't merely a response. It was a trap. The chosen one. Your biggest successes were not based on how loud you yelled or how hard you hit. They sprang from your inability to move when provoked, from the unwavering quiet that made them wonder if they ever had control in the first place. They utilize emotions to manipulate people. But it couldn't affect you since your decisions were based on clarity, not confusion. They flung drama at you like bricks, hoping one would crack you. Instead, you created your next move with the same blocks. And by the time they noticed you were observing rather than reacting, it was too late. Their impetuous strikes provided you with a complete blueprint for disassembling them. That is why they are praying you will not return. You did not just win, you rendered them irrelevant. And now they understand. If you do decide to return, it won't be for vengeance. It will be for closure. Strategic shock. Swift. A clean cut. No noise, no mess. You are not here to enjoy the pandemonium. You are here to outlive it. That's what scares them. Number 5. Do not quarrel with falsehoods. Slice through the mask with surgical precision. They wanted you caught in disputes and immersed in diversions. They based their safety net on one assumption. You'd protect yourself, but you didn't. And this is what frightened them. You did not argue. You've been revealed. You didn't yell back. You pulled the mask off with a single statement that shattered the pretense. The chosen one. You're not here to persuade anyone. You're here to show them what they never expected to see. That's precisely what you did as they fabricated lies and distorted facts. You remained still, watching their lives shatter beneath the weight of your insight. They spoke in circles. You cut straight through. It was not what you stated. That was how you stated it. Calm and attentive. Surgical. You mentioned things that they had kept secret for years. Called out contradictions that caused their entire image to crumble in front of the same individuals they sought to impress. That was not confronto. That was exposure. Exposure is irreversible. You didn't need a crowd. You needed a minute. And when it arrived, you used it like a scalpel. Not to destroy, but to analyze how you said. Speak the truth without raising your voice. That is what left them breathless. Because truth, when communicated with accuracy, does not require loudness. It requires vision. Now, they're left to try to recreate an identity that you wrecked without ever touching. That is why they are praying you will not return. Because the first time you didn't fight, you just took off the mask. The quiet that followed sounded louder than anything they'd ever heard. Number 6, avoid making predictable movements. Allow their defenses to reveal fresh flaws for you. The chosen one. You were never intended to choose the apparent way. That's how they attempted to capture you. They created walls, expecting you to smash through them like everyone else, except you. You studied architecture. You discovered fractures that they were unaware of. That is what broke them. Not a direct collision, but your reluctance to be predictable. You never battled them directly. You let them guess. You allowed them to respond. In doing so, they exposed themselves. Every time they tried to defend one aspect of their illusion, another component broke apart. This is the power of subtle disruption. You do not need to hit loudly. You simply needed to be exact. See, they made the error of expecting you were still the same and would come back swinging the way they intended. But you evolved in quiet. You discovered how to weaponize uncertainty. They trained for a fight you'd already won. And now they're trapped following a version of you that no longer exists. That is why they are spinning. Every countermeasure they implement is based on obsolete information. Every step they make reflects how far behind they are. You're not even in the ring, but they continue to lose. Being deadly does not need being loud. You only need to move differently. Disappear, reappear, change form. Allow their paranoia to do the heavy lifting. That's how the chosen ones win. You allowed them to create fortifications against your former self. Then you appear as something they were unprepared for. And by then, it is too late. Keep them guessing. Confusion is a weapon. Mystery is a trap. And quiet, that is your sharpest blade. Number 7, stop working in the dark. Allow them to see you burn it down with grace. They used to gossip about you in corners, believing you were harmless since you remained silent. They assumed your stillness signified doubt, and your lack of drama signaled loss. But chosen one, you never hid. You were studying. calculating, observing the flaws in their system as they exuded false confidence. And you don't need the darkness anymore. Let them watch. The next phase is not about concealment. It's about spectacle, controlled and precise, devastating, because there's something far scarier than a veiled menace. And this is a visible one that does not flinch. You are no longer an invisible presence. You are the spotlight, exposing every fault in their foundation. Allow them to observe while you demolish what they worshipped. Allow them to see how simply you deconstruct years of lies with nothing more than presence and accuracy. The dagger exemplifies elegance, because it isn't only what you do, it's how you do it. Calm, neat, without mess or fury. This is what shocks people to their core. They plan to remove you silently. Now, they must face your rise in plain view. So burn it down purposefully, beautifully. Allow the fire to reflect in their eyes while you stay unaffected by the flames. That is not vengeance. That is a revelation, and the true penalty. They still don't understand how you accomplished it. They simply know they can't stop what's coming next. Number 8, stop assaulting the surface. Tear down their internal blueprint. Silently chosen one. You were never directed to scratch the surface. You were designed to discreetly, surgically, and mercilessly reshape the architecture of false power. This is why they fear you more than anybody else. You witness while others shout and flail violently. You calculate, then you go right to the code. They never imagined anyone could decipher. You're not here to dispute or reveal the obvious. That is child's play. You hid underneath the mask. They forgot they were lying below the scripts they had been repeating for so long. You discover the wiring within their image, the secret regulations, the quiet contracts, and the fictitious nobility. They dress like armor. You do not combat them directly. You deactivate the beliefs that drive them. And that's what makes you so scary. See, moving involves more than just one encounter. They sense a glitch spread across their entire system. It is existential. You don't just question what they do. You confront who they are when no one is looking. You enter with tranquil eyes and exit with their internal structure ripped apart. While the room remains the same, the harm is irrevocable. Because it was not about the words you spoke. It was about what those phrases triggered in their minds. You did not defeat their actions. You showed their basis as fraudulent. You caused their mask to crumble from the inside out. This is why they are still tormented. Not by your actions, but by what you revealed. The chosen one. Continue traveling in quiet. They're not scared to lose a war. They're terrified to face themselves. Once your mirror dispels their delusion. And you are the mirror. Number 9, don't seek closure. Let paranoia complete the task for you. The chosen one. Let them sit in the solitude they've made. Let them choke on the questions they never imagined they'd have to ask. You do not need to smash the door. They are already tormented by the sound of you going away. Closure is not your duty. When their mind has become the battleground and their recollections of your peaceful leave play out like a psychological nightmare cycle. They sought to confuse you, disrupt your rhythm, and elicit a reaction. They were able to weaponize. Instead, you offer them something unexpected, peaceful separation, and it is the twist that ripped them apart. See your quietness. It did not say I was finished. You aren't even worth an explanation. That degree of disdain went deeper than any confrontation ever could. Now they're replaying every moment, seeking for clues and wondering what you know. You're terrified of what could happen next. The absence of answers has become their punishment. You've become the unfinished sentence that keeps them up at night. They hope you don't return, not because of what you will say, but because of how little it will take to damage them again. Allow them to spiral. Allow the paranoia to do the hard lifting as they pursue ghosts of your presence. You build in quiet. You rise privately. The true power move was never the big finale. It was a neat, impersonal exit. That is what broke them. Not a battle, but your refusal to attend one. Number 10. Stop attempting to prove that you've changed. Let the gaps in their reality speak. They want you to explain yourself right now. Justify your change. To lessen the shock, narrate your progress like a bedtime story. Don't. That isn't your job anymore. You don't provide someone an update on the version of yourself that no longer exists. Growth does not require a microphone. It resonates in the quiet after you go. It's obvious in the way their world crumbles. The instant you quit participating, you become the chosen one. They did not believe you when you were truthful. They mocked you while you remained quiet. They ignored you while you were faithful. And now, they're now scrambling to comprehend the pattern of who you have become. But it's too late. You progressed while they indulged delusions. You advanced while others used outmoded techniques. Allow the evidence to speak. Let the stillness hurt. Allow for fissures in their reality. Tell a tale. You no longer have to narrate. They'll notice it in the way others cease saying their name. They'll sense it in the tension that builds when your name is spoken. They will notice it in the mirror as their own image begins to question everything they ever believed in. You did not merely grow. You exploded the version of yourself they assumed would never change. And, most hauntingly, you never needed vengeance. All you needed was some space. That was the catalyst. Your withdrawal triggered collapse. They can't explain to anyone without mentioning your name. Stay away. Remain quiet. Allow the ruins to speak for you more clearly than you could. Number 11. Don't battle for their reign. Reveal. They based it on fantasy. The chosen one. Stop indulging the notion that their throne possesses any actual authority. You were not born to beg for a seat. They were just loud enough to make folks believe they possessed the castle. But as you moved through, the illusion crumbled. And now they're struggling to hold together a fantasy they thought was real. They never anticipated you to arrive up with your own light and gravity. You didn't just dispute their authority. You made it clear that it was never real in the first place. That is the portion they cannot recover from. You did not steal anything. You merely exposed the foundation under their throne. Ego, deception, and undeserved validation. And when the lighting reached them, the crown slid since it had never been designed for someone of genuine weight. You did not need to raise your voice or launch a takeover. You just existed in fact. And that reality alone disarmed the entire performance. The audience witnessed it. Their own allies witnessed it. And worst of all, they witnessed it. The game they played so confidently began to malfunction the moment you refused to play by their rules. That is what bothers them today. Not defeat, but exposure. Their legacy was not ruined because of what you took. It collapsed because of what you disclosed. The adulation they used to want now rings hollow. Every victory they seek now appears manufactured. Because once the illusion is broken, it never feels true again. You did not need their throne. You provided your own dimension. They now pray that you do not return. Because you're not coming to shake their world. You're going to finish it. Number 12. Stop shooting every time. Real power is instilling fear in others about what you could do. They want you to respond. They seek your answer as if it were breath. Because as long as you are visible, they can plan. They may pervert your words for as long as you utter them. But the moment you go silent, you hold your fire. That's when the true dread starts. Because they don't know what version of you is on the way or if you're even coming. The chosen one. Real power does not involve perpetual revenge. It's restrained. It's about allowing your quiet be louder than theirs. You've already proven them your abilities once. And now they dwell under the shadow of what if, the psychological cliffhanger. That's what keeps them looking over their shoulder. That is what transforms every watercourse into a problem. You don't need to raise your voice. You have already upped the bar. Uncertainty is the penalty. Your absence is the sharpest sword. Your silence is a dungeon from which they cannot escape. Every day, you do not answer. They project 1,000 horrors, and each potential action they consider is worse than the previous. That is what happens when you cross a force that does not need to be proven twice. So stop turning up because they attempted to provoke you. Make them fear your next move. Allow them to plot against shadows. Allow them to burn resources. Defending against ghosts. Being a chosen one has that power. You do not chase. You do not perform. You just exist. Even this is too much for them to take. And if that rocks something deep within you, good, because chosen one, your quiet is not a weakness. It's a strategy. You don't need to disclose your next move if your previous one is still echoing in their reality. The terror you leave behind causes more harm than your presence ever could, and it is true power. So if you sense this truth in your bones, don't simply watch a line. Hit the like button. Subscribe for additional messages tailored specifically for the awakened. Drop 99 in the comments. If you know they're still praying you won't return. Maintain a sharp edge. Keep silent. You have already shifted everything.
If you're enjoying the content on Pure Wisdom and find value in the messages we share, I encourage you to subscribe. Based on the latest analytics, 93.9% of viewers are watching without subscribing. By subscribing, you not only stay updated with new content, but also support the channel's growth, allowing us to continue spreading wisdom for the chosen ones. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an important message. Let's build this community together.